Hello, friends. Uncle Marv here with another episode of the IT Business Podcast, the show for IT professionals and managed service providers, where we help you run your business better, smarter, and faster. Now, this is a very special report. It is not our usual Wednesday night live, and it is not your usual vendor profile. This is going to be something where I'm going to ask some very tough questions and we're going to have some very strong opinions. And this is how it's going to go. About 10 days ago, I'm poking around on Reddit and reading some stuff, and I came across a post that basically started with the comment of SonicWall owes its customers better response on the current critical issue. Now, for those of you who have been living under a rock and not knowing, apparently SonicWall has been the uh, subject of an Akira, I don't know how to pronounce it, but a ransomware attack where they have been going after SonicWall appliances that have a vulnerability. So, yeah, that I knew about, but I didn't realize that SonicWall was under attack by Reddit, social media, and other people. But basically, this is how it started. And the quote, let's see, I hate consulting. Uh, and I'm not pointing this out just to target the user. I'm just doing it because I want to make sure I credit the right person and all of that. But I'm pretty sure most of us have users that have absolutely depend on VPN access. SonicWall was given a heads up on Friday and crickets until yesterday. And then they released a non-committal reply that can be paraphrased as a skeptical, we're looking into it. And then King James 2727, a couple days later, also uh, put in a comment there. But here's what happened from my perspective. This Akira ransomware is something that has been out there really since 2023. There were a large number of things that happened in 2024. Granted, SonicWall was targeted mid-July, and it has become something of an issue. So I get it. This is something that SonicWall needs to address. But just like every other vendor out there that has a firewall that does VPN with SSL access, needed to get this fixed and addressed. So I reached out to my good friends over at SonicWall, and then I realized, oh my God, they're busy. My buddy Michael Crean, I call him buddy, but I don't know if we are, but Michael Crean and I usually chat about a lot of stuff. And he was doing a lot of responding there in the Reddit chat. He actually, pulling up notes here because I don't want to misquote anybody, actually was responding to people with, apologizing for the delay in responding, but uh, did suggest that every situation that they have been allowed to investigate found no evidence that there was an MFA bypass issue in 7.3. That's the latest firmware. If there is someone who can private message me and provide me with more detailed information, we can get a case open to investigate and confirm directly in that specific instance. So apparently there has been a lot of back and forth about what this really was, what these vulnerabilities are, and when SonicWall should have told people about them and stuff. But let me do this before I bring on a guest and we get more into it. I want to do a couple of disclaimers here. First of all, I probably should have introduced myself. My name is Marvin B., and I run an IT services firm in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. For those of you that may have been alerted to this specific broadcast specifically about SonicWall and you don't know who I am, you don't know about this podcast, well, that's who I am. And this podcast has been around. We will be going on 10 years in 2026. It was under another name. I rebranded to the IT Business Podcast, and I basically talk to other MSPs in the space. I talk to vendors. I talk to subject matter experts, thought leaders, all of that sort of stuff. So I've talked to these people a lot, and I eat my own dog food. So I am an MSP, sort of. Um, but I use SonicWall. So I want to get that out there. First of all, I've used SonicWall since 2005. So I am very familiar with them. I do other stuff as well for my secure remote access. I have clients where we use the IPsec Global VPN client. I've never used SSL VPN. I use TrueGrid for a lot of my legal clients that need secure remote access because they're remoting in either to their desktop or to a terminal server. Um, so, first of all, I will say this issue did not affect me because of that. Also, because I keep up to date with my firmwares. And every time I log into the portal, I get this big notification, of things that need to be addressed. And they actually list which firewalls need to be addressed. I get the SonicWall alert emails that talk about immediate action. So, from my perspective, I didn't quite understand why Reddit was just bashing the hell out of SonicWall, but vendors get bashed all the time. And Michael was taking a beating, but he was, holding his own, of course. And then I saw this message in LinkedIn from Cory Clark, the vice president of threat operations at SonicWall, and starts out pretty nice. It's been a busy week, and the bourbon is in shorter supply than free time. By now, you've likely seen a multiple SonicWall communications. To be clear, there is no 0 day, but Akira threats actors are actively targeting SonicWall firewall vulnerabilities. I've been responding to several compromises where the entry point was yet again a misconfigured SSL VPN. There are many topics we need to discuss, and he goes through a litany of stuff there. And I don't know if I can actually link to a LinkedIn post, but I'm gonna try to do that. But Michael goes down the list of stuff that we'll get to in just a bit. But basically, the post ends with something that I think is pretty humorous. Stop handing your VPN the master keys and maybe stop taking architecture advice from random Reddit keyboard warriors. So when that dropped, I believe this was 2 days ago, I said, no, this was Monday. So by the time you see this, it'll be a week ago because I'm recording this on Friday, but it won't be released until Monday. A whole lot of reasons behind that as well. But I said, I gotta get them on. So Cory agreed to come on the show. So now let me bring him up here. Cory Clark, the Vice President of Threat Operations at SonicWall. Cory, how are you?
Marv, how are you, sir? It's great to see you.
All right. Let me also do one other disclaimer here. I know Cory. I've known Cory for probably 3 or 4 years, or was it before the COVID? I don't remember.
I lost track of years after
Okay.
COVID, so I don't even know, but
Cory
close.
and I,
We're good.
Cory and I don't have regular conversation when it comes to SonicWall. I don't, call him up and say, "Hey, I want to configure this. I want to do that. Why aren't you guys doing this or anything like that?" I know Cory cordially, and he's trying to get me to drink bourbon, and I keep saying no.
That's it.
All right, uh, Cory, let me start by asking you: when you wrote that post, I assumed it was out of frustration, out of everything that's going on, because I think over the last month of all the stuff that has been going on with Akira and the SSL and all of this stuff, the MFA bypass, from what I can tell, SonicWall has only detected about 40 actual events that can be attributed to any of this stuff. But yet everybody's, crying wolf and foul and shame on SonicWall and stuff. So I'm just going to ask you straight up, what the hell's going on?
Okay, so let's start at the beginning. Now, I'll give my disclaimer as well. I'm a very transparent person. You said earlier that Michael wrote the post. I wrote the post. Michael, as you noticed in Reddit, he's far more polished. He's more politically correct. I was supposed to work with him on updating some of these Reddit posts, and I had to take a step back because it's some of it just gets the blood boiling, and some of it just makes no sense. So if we start back at square one, there were what I'm calling unsubstantiated claims made by two IR organizations, right? Now, you can look at it and you can say, hey, they said it might be this. But unfortunately, in our world, what ends up happening, and I have to train my sock on this, right? When you report something to any of our partner base, you have to give objective facts. You have to give them the information that you know for sure and separate the subjective facts and say, well, it might be this. Unfortunately, the way this was released, it everyone was like, oh, this is a 0 day. They said it, and you see it in Reddit. Well, they're claiming this, they're claiming this, they're claiming this. Even though if you reread the post, it says this might be. But the way that it was written, unfortunately, I have issues with, and this is why the reaction happened. What happened? Now, fast forward, we had great back and forth. We had great collaborations with those organizations, plus some that do the same thing I do, right? Because obviously, in my world, what I do is I oversee our global SOCs. That's one hat that I wear, right? I wear a lot of hats at SonicWall, and I oversee our different security operation centers globally for SonicWall, and I'm seeing the same thing. And then I go to Reddit, and there's just misinformation. This isn't new. You called it out last year, July timeframe. We started seeing a hit, right? We started seeing threat actors targeting SonicWalls. I do a quarterly webinar called our Tales from the Crypt. And that's just our marketing people wants me to get on and talk about, hey, here's what we've seen. To me, it's everyday life. I see this stuff every day, but they're like, hey, everybody else thinks it's cool. Let's talk about the threats that you've seen and how we've responded. Well, interesting enough, in the beginning of this year, January timeframe, I said, hey, we're seeing an uptick in ransomware. It's ridiculous how much ransomware we're seeing. We're seeing Akira. They're really showing themselves. And I explained who Akira is, what they do, right? And then here we are in August, and we're back at it. It's called waves, right? And this is what the adversary groups do, especially more organized adversary groups, is they go in waves and they start targeting different vendors or different tool sets or whatever they're targeting that day. So right now, well, we're coming towards, I'll knock on wood, we're coming towards the end of this wave, where it's the peak is done. And now they're back at Fortinet as an example. Many articles, if you look them up, they shifted over to Fortinet SSL VPNs. They shifted over to their platform as well. So they're seeing an uptick in activity there as well. Now, notice how I didn't say that they have 0 day. Notice
Right.
how I didn't say that, right?
Okay.
This is just them attacking because they know all the vulnerabilities. They know how organizations misconfigure these tools that give them direct access. Now, you've heard me talk before. You know I love to use analogies. The firewall is your front door, right? The front door to your house is important. It's what keeps things from coming in. It's what keeps things from going out. That's your front door. And you have to properly secure your front door. I know I have a deadbolt. I need to go and I need to turn it to lock it. If I just leave it, if I just say I have a deadbolt and I don't lock it and I just leave it in the open position, what good is that doing me? Someone can just walk up, turn the knob, walk in my house. Make sense?
Oh, yeah.
Well, this is what I'm seeing with these configurations. People aren't following best practices. People aren't acclimated to best practice configurations in general, and we've seen it, right? We've seen, and there's a lot of turnover in our industry in general. And so I'm running against that. And then I'm seeing all of these compromises happen, and the entry point is the firewall. And so the majority of it is that SSL VPN. It's an older
Right.
technology. It is, well, not older, but it's a dying technology, I'll say, because you're using IPsec, which is even older. But the benefit to you in IPsec is it's not the most prevalent out there. Threat adversaries will attack what's the most prevalent thing. That's why Windows is so commonly attacked, right? Because it's what most people have. Well, same thing with SSL VPN. Adversaries know majority of people, if you have a SonicWall, you're more than likely using SSL VPN. Let me start tacking at vulnerabilities.
Right. Well, even though I use that IPsec, I don't, it's not my primary use. I have it for, certain clients and stuff, and it is fortified with multi-factor authentication, different passwords, to use that and then to get to where I'm going. So I have a lot of that. You said a lot of things. Let me go back and just do one quick thing on the timeline to be sure. I did some research because Akira, we had heard the name before, and to be very candid, the original Akira was in 2017. It was a ransomware, but it is not the current Akira that we're talking about. This is the Akira group, which basically formed in March of 2023. and they operate as a ransomware as a service. And they were initially targeting, as you mentioned, Windows systems. And then in April to June of 2023, they expanded to Linux systems, especially VMware, EXSI, hypervisors, blah, blah, blah. And then later in the summer of 2023, they did some rapid proliferation targeting healthcare, finance, government. Cisco VPNs without MFA were targeted. In August, Cisco publicly announced, what they had found. In September of 23, the U.S. Health Services and adversaries from CISA started addressing Akira virus attacks, urging VPN hardening and MFA deployment. Late 23, Akira version 2, an advanced Rust-based variant was released, improving encryption and targeting broader types, including virtual disk and exchange databases. There's a lot that goes on here, but when I pull up the actual table of everybody that was attacked, we're talking Cisco, you mentioned Fortinet, VMware, all major VPN/firewall vendors have been attacked. So this really isn't unique to SonicWall. This is the way of life now.
And that's common sense, Marv. But let's just be honest, Reddit. So my problem with Reddit is it's where I'll try to be as politically correct as I can. Reddit is the platform that majority of people use, and it's usually people not in senior positions, to air their grievances. That's what it is. And they want someone else to hear it.
Yeah.
And so you read through these Reddit posts and you see, oh, well, this is it. This is the final straw. I'm getting off SonicWall and I'm going over to insert vendor A, right? Insert the next vendor. They have the same problem. They go through the same thing. This is our current wave. They might be the next wave or the wave after that, right? It's not the vendor, it's the technology. And this is why, Fortinet already announced earlier this year, hey, we're sunsetting the SSL VPN. SonicWall themselves, after acquiring my company, acquired Banyan, which is a ZTNA organization, right? And so the industry as a whole is making that switch over to zero trust. We all know zero trust is important, right? But now it's becoming more relevant when it comes to networking, so in cloud. And so this is where the ZTNA is coming in, zero trust network access, and why there's a bunch of great companies, but that's the technology that people are moving to because it's far more secure.
Right.
Now, is it a complete replacement for SSL VPN? No, it's not. There's some things that it can't do that SSL VPN does for you. And so this is where organizations need to start looking at, okay, what's the need? What's the level of access? What technology will help me get there? What's the least amount of attack surface I can put out there for the organizations? But albeit, I don't want to escape the major fact that majority of these compromises, I'll give you the numbers. I'll give you the numbers that hashtag Michael Crean talked about, right? So if we use a steady 1 million firewalls, let's say SonicWall has around 1 million firewalls out there, easy number to understand. Of those, we found that 50,000 of them were vulnerable to the old attack from 2024, meaning not properly patched, not properly configured, right? Cool. Of this incident, we only had 200 reported cases. So out of 1 million, 200 reported cases. But this is everyone's sensitive. I'm sensitive on the SOC side, right? I see ransomware infection. I'm like, holy crud, the front door failed, right? The dog inside the house failed. Everything failed if there's actual ransomware happening, right? Because obviously that's just the entry point. We're talking about our MDR for the endpoint has failed us if ransomware is actually, running on the machine. So everyone's reporting things. Oh, so of those 200, that's where that 50 comes in. 50 of them were like, okay, we need to dive deeper into this. And this, I'll get to that communication part you talked about in the beginning, because that's important as well.
Okay.
And so of those, 50 had to be investigated. Okay, is this really a potential issue? And then diving into them, I think there was only 2 remaining of the 50 that we couldn't immediately say, oh, this is a horrible configuration, or less than desirable configuration is what I said in a recent video, right? Less than politically correct, less than desirable configuration. 2 out of 1 million. I mean, so these are the numbers,
Right.
I'm a numbers guy. I have to go by that. I have to look at that and have to account for that. So yes, again, there's vulnerabilities at any firewall, any device. That's why we patch. Patching should be the number one thing anybody has in their cybersecurity plan. That's the easiest, most cost-effective thing. Patch your WinRAR right now. Pro tip, right? There's a big vulnerability out around WinRAR. Patch it. Right? It's just that easy. It's all you got to do. But we don't see it. We see customers leading the MSP saying, hey, I can't have any downtime. Can't do it. I mean, I find servers going unpatched. I still, after Hafnium in 2020, 2021, whatever Hafnium came out, I still see servers that they only patched to fix Hafnium and then web proxy hit them, right? People don't patch. And then again, even patching won't fix your misconfigurations, which I can dive into that if you want, or we can dive into the communication.
Well, we will, because I've got that as well. Your analogy I use with not that particular one, but I use a similar analogy all the time where, people always talk about, a million cars drive through an intersection on a daily basis, and then a major wreck has, and somebody's like, we got to do something about that intersection. It's like, how about the fact that the driver was, speeding, at twice
On
the
their
speed
phone.
limit, ignoring, rules and stuff like that, which I'll be honest is what happens a lot of times. Now, I want to, before we shift, go back to the fact that you mentioned a lot of this stuff, the way it gets reported. The King James 2727, well, I don't know if it's him. Let me just, the comment was, I'm so glad that Reddit and forums like Reddit exist. Otherwise, I would not know about these situations. And it's not just Reddit. It happens on all the social medias. It happens on Twitter. It happens on the Facebook and stuff. And I always used to be of the mindset, if you're going to social media for your updates about your hardware and your software and your job, when it relates to IT, you're not doing it right. Now, I'm saying that out loud, and one of the reasons I wanted to do this on video so that people can see I'm looking at the camera and saying that. And I was guilty of that in my early days. I didn't always reach out to the vendor. I didn't always follow the guidelines, but have learned, that I got to do it. And yes, I fight my customers just like a lot of others where they're like, we don't want downtime. I'm like, well, if you don't want downtime, then we've got to patch. We've got to do these things because if it happens because we don't do it now, it's going to be worse later. So that's the way it's got to be. But the fact that that comment was, I'm so thankful for these Reddit forums. Now, granted, this might be a junior at an organization, like you mentioned, that is not privy to the email alerts that get. They may go to a CIO or CTO, and then they're just told to do what, their boss tells them. So they may not see the alerts. Again, that's not a SonicWall issue.
It's
Um,
it's not just position. It's more around technical maturity as well.
mhm,
Right? Because I see business owners on there. I see people with C levels, and they're taking technical advice face value on Reddit, which is a very difficult and not a great thing to do because again, it's all opinions.
right.
That's what you get out of Reddit is opinions, unless you hear it directly from the source or someone that's actually doing it. And then unfortunately, some of them, there are some senior, highly technical people on there that can just, on the networking side, obviously can blow me out of the water, right? Awesome. But then, we did investigate some of the claims that were on Reddit. Michael did have conversations with some people and we investigated. Again, guess what we found? They claimed to have perfect configuration. No, they didn't. And that's a very tough conversation to have. When you're on the other line with someone you made these claims, you're on the other line with somebody, and here we go, poking holes. Why is that not turned on? Why is that configured that way? Oh, and it just gets quiet on the call. So again, you have to take it for what it is, and you have to do your own due diligence and find the right resources. Again, Reddit can get you updated. Hey, there's something going on. I have a SonicWall. There's some type of SonicWall thing going on, but you have to do your own research and do your own proper research when it comes to that. Talk to the right sources.
Right.
Find out what's really going on. If you are in a higher position in your organization, trust but verify. I know we all want to trust our engineers, but we all know engineers will be engineers. And I talk about this when I do kickoff calls and I just general talking to people. It's like, okay, let's be honest. At one point, if we're in the IT field, we were all technicians at some point. We were all considered engineers at some point. I have that customer calling me pissed off. Their 20-year-old tax software is not working. So just so that CFO can do what they need to do, I'm going to disable Sentinel One, right? I'm just going to let it run. I'm going to go back and turn it back on tonight before I leave for the day. Well, guess what? I forgot about it. Guess what? Now that machine's unprotected. That machine now just got compromised, and now I'm blaming the tool. So engineers will be engineers. So as leaders, we have to trust but verify of what our engineers and what our people are doing to make sure that we have the proper configuration. This is where auditing comes in. And everybody should be doing auditing. In my previous post, I talk about you need to audit your remote access plan right now. Can't tell you how many compromises I've responded to. They're like, oh yeah, we have MFA for everybody. And I'm like, well, what about this account? This is the account that was used for the compromise. Oh, well, that person hasn't been here in 3 years and we forgot about it. And it's the only account without MFA. Okay. Right. What can we do with that?
Well, you guys did bring up a point that a lot of the accounts that we use to activate service and stuff are probably accounts that we have given. If you're using local Active Directory, they are a domain administrator account, even though they don't need to be a domain administrator. And so if somebody goes in and compromises that account, they have the keys to the kingdom and stuff. And you guys talked about the fact that, some of these services need to be configured with the least amount of privilege needed to make the thing happen. Most of the stuff only needs read access.
Yeah.
They don't need to be a domain administrator to do that.
This is where
how much of that is happening?
A lot. I mean, this is where I have and I come from my previous life, a very, very heavy systems background, right, for myself. And then it's funny when I talk to a lot of people because I've been there, I've walked the walk, I can talk the talk, and now I've been for a long time 100% focused on security side of it. And there's best practices and there's things that you should do and there's things that we do that we shouldn't do. So even when it comes to that default built-in domain administrator, you shouldn't be using that for anything. In a lot of cases, I'd say disable it until you need to use it. You should have separate sys accounts. I've talked to all this blue in the face that says everyone needs a minimum of 3 accounts. If you're an admin in any type of AD environment, you should have your own domain admin account that it only does domain admin stuff, never logs into workstations. You should have your workstation admin account that does admin stuff on workstations by themselves. And then you should have a normal user account. Microsoft went a little extra and said you need 4 accounts. Your domain or one of your accounts can only log into domain controllers. The other ones for servers. But let's be honest, right? We have to leverage usability with security. So
Right.
It's hard enough for people to maintain 2 accounts, but I recommend 3 accounts. Plain and simple.
Yeah, I had a conversation with a client because they wanted me to break down how we do our billing because we bill per device and we bill per user. And the user count that we were doing didn't match their number of employees.
Of course.
And they were like, why are we protecting these accounts? I'm like, because these are accounts that are active that I have to protect whether you use them or not.
Yeah.
And it took some convincing,
I get a lot of that in identity monitoring.
Mhm.
Like again, if I go to the cloud side, 365, I have a admin account that has no license, no mailbox, and it's only an admin for 365 stuff.
Right.
That's it. Nothing else. Well, guess what? That means I need 2 licenses if someone's monitoring my identity because that admin account definitely needs to be monitored on the activity that's happening. And obviously my normal user account needs to be monitored. So while I'm just one person in 365, I'm 2 people.
Yeah. It's a whole different world out there.
That's it.
You did mention that Fortinet talked about their sunsetting their SSL VPN. I can tell you that when was it a year ago? I went to go look to do a remote access solution for a client, and I was looking for that secure remote access box that you guys used to have. That's gone. You guys mentioned taking over Banyan, and everybody that I shouldn't say everybody. Let me say this: a lot of people that I was checking on in the Reddit forum, they were so adamant about staying with SSL VPN and saying that you need to fix this. And all I kept thinking is there's so many other available options when it comes to remote access. You mentioned ZTNA, there's SASE, There's these remote access platforms, Perimeter 81, Palo Alto, Tailgate, NetBird. I mean, there are other options available. One, can you understand why people are demanding that SSL VPN stay and be fixed? And two, shouldn't it be going away?
Change is tough. We all know that.
Yeah.
I have these conversations all the time when it comes to, talking about changing technologies in general, because someone likes what we do. They want to come work and do business with us, but they have a certain solution that our SOC doesn't monitor or doesn't do, right? And I'm like, okay, well, I'm sorry, I can't add a new offering for this. And because I have a certain level of expectations. I have dedicated support teams, dedicated experts. We're the specialists at what we do. I don't want to be a generalist in monitoring your environment just because. And so we start talking about the solutions that we do, and then it's a tough conversation because they got to change. You have to relearn something. And I think that's what's happening with this. They got so comfortable and so used to using SSL VPN. I see it's like, well, it's a feature, it's there, so why is it not working right? Even though we're having conversations and saying, hey, it's going to be going away. And I've always said, hey, in 3 years, I'll bet my paycheck SSL VPN is kind of a dying thing if it's even still around, right? It's going to be gone. Because the newer technology is going to come and we're all going to be forced to switch to it. And then we all know cyber insurance. We all know how they work. And we know that there's more stipulations that they require, right? And so what's going to end up happening, don't be surprised if they say, hey, we will not give you cyber insurance if you're using an SSL VPN because it's too vulnerable. So maybe they'll start pushing the objective for
Right.
people to get off SSL VPN.
Well, they did help by saying that you have to prove that MFA is enabled. That was something I've seen them do in the last year to 18 months. So that's a step.
Yeah, they're underwritings. That's the word. There's going to be far more underwritings as time comes on, as the years go on. They're tired of paying out these ransoms, and they're tired of doing it because of misconfigurations, not
Right.
just firewalls, anything within the environment, something that could have been so easily prevented, just a simple misconfiguration.
Yeah. It's the same as insurance companies for automobile denying your claim because you didn't lock your car. And that's the reason, you didn't lock the car, you left the keys in the ignition, and they stole it. So, whose fault is that? And that's, I think, what they're looking at is you claim to have MFA, but you don't have it turned on. Listen, do your job, I guess is the short way to say it.
Yeah. I mean, talking about
Um,
MFA, can I talk about my last post around LDAP? Now,
okay. Yes, please do.
okay. So you talked about it earlier, right? With accounts and domain admins and accounts having more privileges than they should.
Right.
So there's different methods that you can use for an SSL VPN. Now, this is talking about, okay, you can't get rid of it right now, today. So
Right.
you have to go through and you have to audit and you have to make sure everything is properly configured. Now, there's some general settings that everybody should be doing no matter what. So prime example on this is most firewalls, not just SonicWall in general, right? Obviously, you need MFA enabled. For any account that accesses it, you just need MFA enabled. You need to start restricting access. Restrict access to certain IPs when it comes to your admin portal for your firewall. So a great example is, okay, if people come into the office at your organization, why would you not restrict that IP for your firewall to your organization, to that IP you have at your building? Okay. How often are you having to log into the admin console? Just something to think about. When it comes to VPN, if it was me, I own my own business. I am restricting IP addresses. If I have remote users, I'm restricting those VPN IP addresses to whatever their current home IP addresses are. Now, the most common response I get is, well, Cory, those IP addresses change. How often do those IP addresses change? I can tell you
Not
every time.
not as often as people thought.
It's not every 2 weeks.
No.
It's months. It goes months. I think there might be, and I don't always go in there and check what's my current IP on my home machine, right? I don't do it, but it can go months. And I've seen even some go over a year where I looked, I'm like, wow, I got the same IP address. It's been over a year since I last checked this. Look at me go. Sweet. I'm not even paying for a static IP. So the overhead on that is not as big as a lot of organizations think. And you're reducing that attack surface because you're saying, hey, this user can only log in from this IP address. Boom. Awesome. Now, let's kind of take a step back and say, why does everybody in your organization need VPN access? I see that too much where they say, hey, if you have an Active Directory account, you can VPN in. They don't use specific groups to say only these users. Why?
Well, after the year of our COVID, the world will be remote. So
But
everybody needs VPN.
that's just it, though. Not everybody needs VPN. And if you look, I'm sure, and that's why I said you need to go over and audit your remote access policy. Who actually needs remote access? What hours do they need remote access to? So a lot of times they just open it up to everybody.
Yep.
So then you also have LDAP settings. And this is not just LDAP for your SSL VPN. This is LDAP for any application that you're doing. You need to get used to using service accounts and stop using the built-in domain administrator for your service accounts. Yes, it has access. It'll get you up and running really quick. You need separate service accounts for the things that need a service account. So in this situation, you should have a dedicated SSL, VPN, LDAP, whatever you want to call it, service account. That account should have the least amount of rights necessary. The only thing it needs to do is authenticate username and password. That's it. Then you need to go in there and you say, okay, I only want to give it access to this OU, right? Or wherever those users are, as an example of where those users reside that you want to have remote access.
Right.
Once that's done, you need to go in and you need to explicitly deny RDP and any type of login locally or any type of interactive logon. Because why should that account have the ability to log on anywhere? It's not. It's just authenticating a username and a password. So if that, and now, so here's the problem. Those service accounts can't have MFA enabled, right?
Right.
So that's a risk. So you need to take these compensating controls to reduce the amount of risk that if that account does get compromised, what do they have access to? If they can't log on anywhere, cool. So now you're also monitoring that account for anomalistic activity, because it's hard to monitor accounts that all have access to do everything, right? But you can set up certain rules to say, if I see this activity coming from this account, that's not expected. Now you have evidence that either someone's brute forcing you successfully or not successfully, and you can take some type of response if you need to. So that is, I believe, I've lost track. I think in the last week, I've had to respond to 6 events specific to Akira. And of those, I believe I'm at 4 now. 4 of them were using LDAP-S. All of them had misconfigurations. All of them, the default domain admin was the service account. And so the adversary was able to compromise that account. And guess what? Now they just RDP throughout the environment.
Right.
Now they're fighting against your endpoint protection, which no one's even talking about, which I think is interesting, right? The focus is on SonicWall and your entry point, but once they get in, this is why we have security in layers, right? Well, what happened on the endpoint?
Yeah.
How did you not have a detection? Because a lot of the incidents that I talked about, the 6 in the last week, we were able to stop a lot of them during the reconnaissance phase. That's where any organization, any security operations center loves to live. I'd rather call you and say, hey, Marv, I'm seeing someone inside your environment. They ran this script. We locked that server out. We locked that account. We need to do something, right? I'd rather call you than say, hey, Marv, I had to lock down your environment. Your customer has been ransomed. You have to call call legal, figure out what you need to say to cyber insurance.
Yeah.
But this is what misconfigurations will get you.
Yep. A lot of that. You guys mentioned that. You mentioned people not having MFA turned on. What else is in here? No rights to change passwords. That's a big one.
Can't create accounts. Can't do anything except for it's read-only access to say, is this the right username? Is this the right password?
Right.
That's all that service account needs.
That's what they do. They go in and change your password and lock you out. So that's what you don't want.
Well, Marv, I don't know how to do that. Well, guess what? You have Google, you have the Chat GPT, you have a lot of resources at you that says, hey, how do I do this? It's just that simple.
And you've got your certification programs that if you learn networking, you can get all of that. Let me quickly talk about one other thing. So it has been determined, yes, this is not a 0-day. Activity has been linked to Well, the big one, I guess, is the CVE 2024-40766, which is not uh, a new vulnerability. And you guys have had that patch for a while. And a lot of the stuff here is that people are not patching. We talked about that. Many incidents happened after the migration from Gen 6 to Gen 7, where local user passwords were carried over without being reset, mainly because we're lazy and we're like, oh, just leave them. The older firmware. So, of course, the plan of actions you mentioned highly update your firmware. Get to the latest, which I believe is 7.3.0.
7.3. Um, I don't have the numbers in front of me for the
Okay.
exact number, but I know it's 7.3. It
Yeah.
is when this started. When I was joining all these meetings, they showed it. 7.3 was like one of the very lowest pushed out firmware. Within a few days, it became the third most. And I can tell you now, today, it is the most
Okay.
used
Good.
firmware. So people are patching, which is great. But again, there's a misunderstanding. I'm patched. I'm good. Nothing. Don't have to do anything else.
Yeah.
That's not how the world works.
Well, you still got to do this other stuff. You still got
You
to
still
reset
got to go
credentials.
through and do all the other stuff. Yes,
Yeah.
there were some things that were put into that firmware version, especially to help against brute forces. But again, it's helping patch some holes, just like any patch or firmware does,
Right.
and it adds more security features. But it's not your golden ticket. It's not gonna. I don't have to do anything else. I'm good. I got the new firmware on there. You have some work to do. You have
Yeah.
to go through and look at your configuration, and then do not get complacent. Do not say, I configured it. I'm good. Verify, have some type of auditing time frame. Go through and double check your configurations. That's something I'm big on, especially when it comes to endpoint MDR. I send out what we call report cards twice a month to all of our MSPs to say, hey, here's your current configuration as it is right now. And that gives them that validation. Hey, yes, I have a configuration. I'm good on best practice configuration, or oops, I got two machines that I installed AV and EDR on and I didn't put it in a protected policy. So figure out your own method, figure out your own audit, do it quarterly. To me, that's not enough, but do it quarterly. Just go through and do those check boxes. Or there's organizations that will do this for you. I think most firewall vendors have some type of managed firewall offering in some form or
That costs
fashion.
money, Corey. That costs money, man.
It costs more money when you get compromised.
Yes, it does. You guys have a bulletin on your website that addressed this, and it actually came out on August 4th, which is about the time that people started, demanding, more from you. And it's like, it's here. We've done that. You also mentioned some other things to harden security posture, enable botnet protection, GeoIP filtering, remove unused inactive accounts, enforce strong passwords, and MFA, detect and response. You talked about doing all of that. And
Geofencing. I love, and I'm big on geofencing because the majority of, not in this situation, I'll get to that, but majority of brute forces I see are coming from outside of a country that that particular customer doesn't reside in or that firewall resides in, right? So simple geofiltering of saying, hey, my all of my expected VPN login should come from this country. That'll go a long way. Now, unfortunately, with this attack, I see that they were attacking United States-based organizations, firewalls, and then the attacks, they were using server farms within the United States to help circumvent a type of geofiltering. So while it doesn't specifically apply to this exact scenario, why it wouldn't have applied in this specific scenario, this is again why we have layers in our security. That configuration needs to be enabled. But the biggest fight I get from that is, hey, well, I got someone that travels. You ever heard of change control? You ever heard of that term, Marv? Right? Change control. You know as well as I do, Michael travels all over the place now. He's in any country, the following week. And he knows if he travels out of the country and he wants his account to work, he has to communicate to us.
yeah,
And then we do what we have to do. We go in, we update his conditional access, we update. He doesn't use VPN, so I'm not to worry about that, right? Update conditional access, update our monitoring software so the SOC's not locking out his account as soon as he lands in Germany or wherever else he's going, right? He has to communicate that, and then we'll make the changes because the overhead of just having to log in and say, okay, he's going to be here now, right? And then setting a reminder that when he gets back, okay, how long are you gonna be gone? You're gonna be gone a week. Okay, I'm locking you. I'm taking that off after a week.
Yep.
Set myself a calendar reminder, go in there, boop, it's done. That overhead is worth it to me instead of, again, senior VP having his account compromised. And then now here we are in the news.
Yeah, it's huge. I have now. I love clients. I have several that have fallen into the habit of, as soon as somebody knows they're going to travel, they will call and say, "Hey, I'm traveling this date, leaving and coming back." And then, of course, I've got the client that always forgets to tell me. And Monday morning at 7 a.m., they're expecting us to be available because they forgot somebody was going to Croatia, and they need access now. So those are things. And to be honest, it takes the same amount of time for me to do that, whether you tell me early or whether you're calling with a fire. But the urgency is something that needs to be addressed. And then, of course, if I were to contact you as a customer and say, "Do you have such and such user in Russia right now trying to log in?" And if you tell me no, that's why we put these things in place. So that we can protect you.
If you get to conditional access, that means they already have the correct username and password. Now we're in a potential credential stuffing incident, right? Because people love to reuse passwords. And so this is where it helps, where conditional access block happens, because a lot of people don't realize that. That's the second, I call it the secondary form of authentication, just like MFA. You don't get to MFA, you don't get to conditional access until you've properly authenticated your username and password. So if you're seeing someone bounce off a conditional access rule from Russia, they have that user's username and password.
So sorry, so sad.
That's it.
Too late for you. Cory, so this is one of the longer special reports I've ever done, but I think it was needed. Thank you for doing so. But let me ask, I know you've talked about, the fact that you're dealing with, two outstanding scenarios and stuff, but where do we stand as a whole? Where does SonicWall stand as a whole as a result of this fortnight of Akira mess?
I mean, it's business as usual to me. I mean, again, and I called it out in the beginning. I'm not, I think how this was reported was wrong. And, but plus side is we were able to work together and shows that we can work together. And I'm seeing this as a whole, especially in the channel community. I'm seeing, we can all play on the same playground together, which is interesting. If you would have asked me 10 years ago if I'd work closely with one of our competitors, I'd be like, no, what are you talking about? No. But now even competitors are working for the greater good of MSPs because we all have the same objective. No matter who you buy your monitoring or your tools from, we all want to make sure that the bad guys are not successful. And we're going to do that together. But in the end, as a whole, with SonicWall right now, I mean, it's business as usual. Organizations really need, and we're going to be more vocal on this. And we didn't really hit the communication spot. So I apologize for that.
No, do you want to hit it real quick?
I never stopped talking. I'm sorry. So I mean, this is my personal opinion, right? And this is a little bit new. So this announcement came differently than when an organization like SonicWall finds a new vulnerability. Usually when we find a new vulnerability, it's like, boom, it's not like public out there. Everybody's like, whoa, I need answers now. Okay. If you tell me something's wrong, I need time to be able to figure out what's wrong. And is this a legitimate claim? So, and this is where you see people on Reddit. Well, I haven't heard an update. They should put something out there every 6 hours. We're still investigating it. And I can tell you from a guy on the inside, literally we're having meetings every day, some twice a day, going over what was found, what's the legitimacy, what are we seeing, what's happening with the communication we're doing with these other vendors. And you can't please everybody. Me, I don't want you to, I want to know you're still working on it. Cool. So if I go to a status page and it says, okay, we're still investigating, we're identifying it. Okay, I know that. I don't need you to tell me and send me an email every 6 hours telling me that you were still looking at it. And it's me, I need organizations to do their own due diligence and verify any type of claims or vulnerabilities and appropriately patch it. I've said this for years. To me, it's not about organizations, because we've seen a lot over the years, organizations that had some type of issue, compromise, vulnerability. To me, it's about the organizations that own up to them and they do something about it. Because I've seen so many times where people just point the finger, right? I won't call any specific names, but like there's some type of big compromise that happens or a breach that happens internal to a large organization. They're like, well, it wasn't our fault. It was their fault. That was them. Right. Own up to what happened and what you do and fix it. Now we are using this as a learning example. SonicWall never really had a big presence on Reddit, right? I don't see a lot of organizations, short of organizations like Huntress, that have a large presence on Reddit. And now we did. Michael and I always kind of have, because I used to go in there and type in solutions granted. What are people saying about us, right? Can I help anybody out on there? Because I'd rather them get the answer from me and not for some keyboard warrior that has no idea what they're talking about, right? So I'd rather give the correct answer. So, we have been having conversations around, okay, how can we do better on different social media platforms to make sure the right information is getting out there? I've gave a heavy suggestion of we need a better like kind of community page as well that people can log in and get the information from inside of our community, not from an outside community like Reddit. I had a particular vendor that when I first started with, working with them 10 years ago, they had an internal community and it was amazing. People would get on there, they'd ask questions, and the experts at that product gave the answers, not someone that used the product 20 years ago and said, hey, oh, this thing's trash now, right? So this is things that we're talking about and considering and discussing, and use this as an example, right? How can we better communicate to try to please most people? Because we'll never please everybody. That'll
Right.
never happen.
So as you were mentioning that, the one analogy that comes to mind for me, we are in a era where we think that everything has to be instant. The solutions have to be instant. You have to be, you have to have that corporate spokesperson, doing a press conference, all the time, giving an update. In Florida here, we have, we're in the midst of hurricane season. And when a hurricane comes out, there's an update every 3 hours, but that's something where, you can see the path. There's a prediction. There's a whole lot of things that went behind all of that. We didn't do that years ago. So you're right.
Technology has changed. They have more facts. They know the trajectory. They know the wind speed. They know where it's headed. They know the timing. Yes. Something like this that just pops out of the blue. Hey, there's this. Oh, wait. Okay, let's investigate
Yeah,
it. And
out
and
here.
what really blew up again is the new 0 day. That term just threw everybody into a tizzy. And come to find out, it's still related to something that was already patched, something that was already brought up last year.
Yeah.
And then people still don't accept that
Yeah.
answer. I mean, let's be
And the
honest.
other thing I want to throw out there is you talked about the fact that, you know, one person is complaining that they weren't getting updated fast enough. And I was surprised at how often I saw Michael in the Reddit responding. And part of me, because I've said this to clients before, where, they'll call or email, hey, I sent you this email 5 minutes ago. Why, I haven't heard from you. And it's like, if I just sat and responded to email all day long, I wouldn't be able to actually work and install and fix things and whatever that. So there's that fine line of, being available to give people an update on what's going on, but then also having the time to go and actually do the research, like you said.
I mean, I told him I'm going to send him a plaque. I'm going to promote him to CRO, Chief Reddit Officer for us.
There you go.
'Cause he got beat up in there, right? And again, I looked at some of them. I'm like, my response would not be good. Chat GPT couldn't fix my response enough on how I would respond to this. And so Michael just he's a champ. He took it. He went in there fully apologetic, which is it's valid. It's legitimate.
I'm surprised he said I apologize a couple of times.
Some of them, I mean, some of them were just far fetched. Some of them were very left field. Let's be honest,
Yeah.
And then like you look at the comment history for that user, and like that's what they do. They just complain.
Yeah.
All of their comments are just complaining and just spreading toxicity across for what?
Well, we live in a world that loves to hate. And, you know, I let me do one more disclaimer as we end off the show here. I do not want to make it sound like I'm attacking SonicWall in any way, but I also don't want to make it sound like I'm defending SonicWall in any way. SonicWall doesn't need me to defend them. I'm not a huge SonicWall user. I have, more than a few out there, but I certainly don't have hundreds or thousands like some of the SonicWall partners. So there are probably other partners that could come on here and speak to what's going on in a lot better manner. but I have this podcast. I've had people reach out to me. They believe I have a relationship with SonicWall, with you and Michael. And like I said, yeah, we talk all the time, but Michael, makes fun of me that I don't buy enough SonicWall products. So that's where we are with all of this.
That's the channel. I mean, this is the channel, right? You don't have to have direct business relationship with somebody. This is what I love about the channel. And why I'll probably never get out of the channel if I ever leave SonicWall, right, and do something else, I'll still want to stay in the channel because that's what the channel is. It's a community, and we all know each other. And you have the platform, and you use your platform. I'll definitely patting you on the back, Marv. You use your platform correctly, right? You just talk what it is,
All
plain
right.
and simple. You're
Thank
not. You're not you're not hitting us saying, "How dare you, SonicWall?" But you're not letting us off the hook either, right? And that's how I see you've always approached it. So it's good and it's valid, and we acknowledge there was an issue, but we need a lot of, like I said, people to educate what's really going on, what's really happening, and let's have the correct conversations and not be completely aligned on something else that's not valid, and the adversaries are over here just laughing and winning.
All right. Well, there you have it, folks. Cory Clark, Vice President of Threat Operations at SonicWall. And I'm going to go and check out Reddit some more and see what's
It's
going
quieted
on.
down. So you should make a post. Let's start something up. Let's see if Michael's paying attention.
Okay, we'll do that.
And then I'm going to bring you some bourbon next conference I see you. I'm gonna get you to try some eventually. But
I've got it here. It's not
yeah,
like I can't.
I got you. But I mean,
So
this is
over
this
the
is
four
this is a
four
new
roses
year.
in the corner.
Yeah, this is a new year, new month. I got a whole collection of cool bourbons that come
All
out.
right, let's see. So I've taken the summer off. I believe my next official event is August in Philadelphia at the ASCII Cup. Will you be there?
It's a good question. I got that question a lot. I'm not sure because
Okay.
I don't really go to the ASCIIs anymore, but they sent me to the ASCII Cup last year, so maybe I'll go this year. I know
Okay.
I'm definitely going to DattoCon, so I'll
Okay.
be
I
there.
will. I will be at DattoCon. I'll be at IT Nation Connect, and there's a couple in September in Orlando that I'm looking at. So I'm
Do
not
you go to
sure.
do you go to Write a Boom?
Do not go to Write a Boom.
Yeah, I'll be there. I'm actually speaking at Write a Boom next week.
Really? Where is it?
Vegas, I believe.
Oh yes, yeah. I'm not going there.
Eh, It's not my favorite. I only go there for work.
I'm
I'm
not
not,
going there.
I'm not a Vegas kind of guy, that's for sure.
All right. Well, Cory, thank you so much for doing this. I appreciate it. Tell Michael hello for me. If you see, uh, got her name just Ragusa McBain. Say hello to her.
Michelle, yes.
She lives like 20 minutes from her. I
You
never
don't
see.
even remember her name, Michelle. Okay. But at least you know her last name. That's good. Yep. Now,
Well,
and
I,
for
I
everybody
had
else,
an email from Jay earlier, so that was what prompted me there. So
look me up on LinkedIn, Cory Clark. I've improved my communication. Usually I'm in the shadows just doing my thing, but especially with this, you'll see I've done a lot more updates, as you called out, Marv, right? Of trying to get real information out to people, straight information out to people, nothing marketing fluff. I've been waiting for someone internal to SonicWall to yell at me saying that's you need to be more nice or
no,
something.
that
I don't
wouldn't be
know.
marketing. That would be HR.
Well, I you know, Reddit keyboard warriors. I was waiting for it, but I've been trying to get a lot more direct and straight information out for people to check and talk because again, I'm seeing this every day, and it's not just specific to one technology. All of this applies to all different makes, models, and brands.
So, all right, folks, there you have it. Your update on SonicWall. And sure, if something else pops up, we'll do this again. But Cory, thank you for coming on.
I appreciate you. Have a great
All
weekend.
right, folks, we'll see you next time. And check over the website, itbusinesspodcast.com, and follow us on the social medias. Now, I don't know if I have a thing on Reddit anymore, but
Well,
I
I'm
am
on Reddit. Let's do it.
LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, um, all that stuff there. So that's it, folks. We're out of here. We'll see you soon. Holla.